Hi, my name is Boris, and in this video I'm going to show you every single distortion or saturation effect in Ableton Live 12. We'll go from the most to least popular effects and discuss how to use each of them best. Before we get into the video, if you like what we are doing on this channel, make sure to subscribe. We've got more content about Ableton coming up. If you'd like to learn Ableton 12 with all the foundations of music production, check out our Beginner to Advanced Live 12 Start to Finish course, and make sure to also check out the Everything Bundle Collector's Edition, which includes all of the courses, sound packs and project files in our store. And to see all of that, check the links in the video description. Alright, so let's get started. So first of all, we're going to have a quick look at Roar, which is a new addition to Ableton. We're going to be applying it to this house beat sample. Let's just play it dry for now. And let's apply Roar. We are in the multi-band mode, which I really like. So let's go through each of these bands. We've got the low band, would sound like this without the amount. So here we can kind of focus on all the elements in this loop. In the mid band, we're going to be primarily focusing on the claps and snares. And the highs, of course, we're focusing on the hats. So it's quite a massive difference. And then we can mix this distorted signal in with the dry wet control. So somewhere more than halfway, I think, is the sweet spot here. But multi-band isn't the only thing you can do here. You can also use it in multi-stage modes. For instance, the feedback and delay modes, which are especially cool, which allow you to create feedbacks and distortion/delay effects. And there's much more to Roar. We have a great modulation section, so this can get really crazy and it can be applied to so many sound design situations. So this effect is incredibly versatile. Alright, so let's jump into the second effect. And we have the Saturator, which also got a nice UI update recently. And here we just have a simple bass line, and we're just going to be adding Saturator later on. And let's add Saturator. Okay, so Saturator has a few modes to choose from, some of which are also present in Roar, so it's great for subtle enhancement. If you would just like to warm up a signal, I think the analog clip is the perfect solution here. We've got a lot more sections over here, but the most interesting is the wave shaper. And the wave shaper allows you to use these controls down here. So you can kind of manipulate the curve much more. So for instance, we can choose a setting like this. Okay, and then we also have this sort of EQ, which can shape the sound even further. Okay, so Wave Shaper gives you the most control, and just flicking through all the other modes can give you a quick overview of which mode to choose. Alright, so let's take a look at the third effect, and this is also a very known effect. It's the overdrive. So here's what we have. This is just a simple brass bass sound. Let's play it. And then on top, we are just going to be placing this overdrive. And to spice it up, we can also throw in this EQ and reverb, and it's going to sound way more massive. So overdrive can really add a lot of character. And if we now A/B what we have, so overdrive can give you a lot of grid, and you can really focus in on the frequencies you want to process here with this bandpass filter. You can of course choose the drive and tone, and the dry wet is included, but the dynamics are a crucial setting, because if you increase the dynamics, it's going to distort more if you have higher gain. And then if you have lower gain, it's not going to give you as many harmonics. But if you lower it all the way down, it's going to give you the same amount of overdrive, no matter your gain. So make sure to tweak the dynamics to fit your particular track. All right, moving on, we have the fourth effect, and this is the pedal. So here's our dry clip. It's just a synth lead sample, and we're just turning down the sides here with utility. And I'm going to enable pedal over here. And this is really going to destroy this sound, so I'm going to turn it down. So pedal, in my opinion, especially the fuzz mode, is great for adding a lot of aggressive distortion. I don't particularly enjoy the overdrive, and I don't really use it for processing a standard guitar, but for achieving a lot of fuzz, this is a great solution. And typically that would mean that this is just mixed in parallel. So I'm just choosing these frequencies with the EQ. And I'm mixing this in with our dry signal. So here's dry. And with pedal. So this can give you much more drive, much more of a powerful distorted sound without sacrificing the dynamics of the dry, beautiful signal. Okay, taking a look at the next one, we have an organ track, and for this one we're going to be using the dynamic tube. Let's hear it dry first of all. Okay, and now with the dynamic tube, we just have a limiter before it to just get rid of some louder transients. So this is a perfect example of what dynamic tube can do and how to work with it, because it just adds that really vintage feel. It simulates vacuum tubes with a dynamic response, and it just gives you a very warm, natural sounding saturation. So two things to bear in mind. First of all, you've got 3 modes over here, so make sure to experiment with these. But 2 other important things you need to bear in mind. First of all, just make sure to control the loud transients, or just control the dynamics before feeding the track into the dynamic tube, because the louder parts are really going to be distorted. Especially to get rid of moments like these, you can just use a subtle limiter or a compressor. And this already is better. And now the second really important control is the bias. Because the higher you go here, the more lo-fi it's going to sound. Alright, so that would be the dynamic tube. It's a simple effect, but it just gives you that really organic sounding drive. Alright, so the next effect is going to be the amp in conjunction with the cabinet. First of all, let's just play this sample dry. We just have a synth lead over here. Alright, Alright, and now we are going to be enabling amp on top of it, and similarly to the pedal, this effect can sound really aggressive. So we're gonna flick through these presets here and check if any of these sound suiting to our track, just bearing in mind that we're looking for these aggressive harmonics and that we're going to be taming down this sound later on. So Alright, so I think the lead could work here. And now what's great about the amp is that it's made to work with the cabinet, which is a typical chain with wiring a guitar. So you typically go into an amplifier and then you have a set of speakers, and only this set of speakers is recorded. So here we have a 4x10 speaker at a far microphone setting, but we can experiment with these. Alright, and let's try just EQing down the mids. And let's try to mix this in with the dry signal. So once again, amp is a great effect for adding a guitar style mid-range distortion. I also prefer other VSTs and other effects for processing guitars, but for this kind of use case, for mixing it in parallel and just EQing down the aggressive tone of these effects, this is a great solution, and it works also on many different sounds, just for adding grit. Actually, we could just save this rack and try using it on a lot of other tracks. Okay, let's move on to the next one. We have a jazz piano over here, so let's just play it, and then we're going to be processing it with Vinyl Distortion. Now, similarly to dynamic tube, we are limiting down the loud transients with a limiter, and on top of it, we're just going to enable this simple vinyl distortion. As you can hear already, we have some crackle enabled, so let's just hear it. Alright, and if you'd like, you can always gate down this crackle. So you can always put a gate on top of it, just like this. And you can, for instance, do this. And now we don't have this annoying crackle in the background when we are not playing the track, and we have it during playback. But now there are two important settings. Let's just turn down the crackle. First of all, we have the tracing model. And then we have the pinch. And these can be automated or modulated. So here we have two LFOs, and these are just moving this and this control, so the frequency of these two. So this can also produce some interesting results. Let's hear it. So in this way, you don't get the exact same kind of distortion over the entire track. It just kind of fades in and out. And if you have different rates of these LFOs, the tracing and the pinch can meet in different positions and create interesting artifacts this way. So that would be the Vinyl Distortion. I really like this effect for adding a lo-fi feel, and it's incredibly easy to use and I really recommend it. Alright, so the last effect for today isn't a typical distortion or overdrive because it's the auto filter effect, but because of its drive setting and these different drive modes, I actually really like using it as a drive kind of effect. So first of all, let's play this sample dry and then we will enable auto filter. And with auto filter, and there are a few awesome features that make this effect stand out as a drive effect. First of all, it's incredibly simple and I really like using it for just simple filtering. But then if you end up needing a bit of drive as well, these 4 modes here, these are perfect for adding that warmth and that powerful sound. So especially the 2 last modes are perfect. And then you can, of course, adjust the amount of the drive. But also what we have is clipping, which can add additional harmonics. And then we have envelope, which is a setting that allows you to move this filter according to the gain. So we are kind of opening and closing down the filter as the sound varies in gain. So let's see it. So it just adds a bit of dynamics actually. And that's because the loudest hits have the filter way more open, so a lot more drive goes through, and then the sort of ghost notes just have it way more subtle. And it's also really easy to control. You can always control it down with the filter, and adding envelope just makes it more dynamic. And of course, dry wet just allows you to really find the sweet spot between the dry signal and the filtered, distorted signal. Alright, I hope you'll find this video on Saturators useful. Make sure to check out our Music Production Academy with start to finish courses on making tracks in various genres. And if you'd like to learn Ableton 12 with all the foundations of music production, check out the Beginner to Advanced Live 12 start to finish course. Make sure to also check out the Everything Bundle Collector's Edition, which includes all of the courses, sound packs and project files in our store. And to see all of that, check the links in the video description. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. If you enjoyed this video, leave it a like, write us a comment, and I will see you in the next ones.